Yo, what is up guys? Ethan here back with another video, and today I'll be giving you my preseason top 25 for this upcoming college football season. If you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. Now this is one of the 3 top 25 videos I will make for this upcoming college football season. The first one obviously is a preseason one as we're doing right now. The second one will be on the first week, the college football playoff top 25 comes out, and then the third and final top 25 I will be releasing will be on Selection Sunday, or the week of that. I think you understand, but this is going to be the first one. And first, let's hop into the teams I think, or the teams that just missed a cut. And here are the 9 teams I considered putting in my top 25 that just didn't make it. The first team that was so close to making it in for me was Minnesota. I'm a humongous fan of this team for this upcoming season. They can very easily make the Big Ten championship game. And as you see, there's tons of Big Ten West teams on the screen right now. But personally, I think Minnesota has the likelihood of being the best team out of these selected teams, or overall in the division. You will see that when my conference predictions come out, but Minnesota, I'm a big fan of. Houston is next. They're going to have a top tier, well, they're going to have the best defense in the American for this upcoming season. It's either them or Cincinnati. Top 2 lock. This offense is going to be really fun to watch with Tank Dell at wide receiver and then Clayton Tune at quarterback. The next 2 teams, Penn State and Nebraska. These are probably the 2 biggest boomer bust teams I've had in this video. Well, we'll get to one certain team very soon that could be the most boomer bust, but Penn State and Nebraska, they can either go like a 5 or 7, or they have the chance to win 10 plus games for this upcoming season, in my opinion. If you haven't seen my Nebraska video, go watch it. Penn State's going to be coming out the next video, actually, after this video, so look out for that one. Wisconsin, I have to include them. I'm not a big fan of Wisconsin for this upcoming season, but if Braylon Allen starts to go off, this team can be dangerous. If Graham Mertz plays better, if the defense is better than what I think it can be, Wisconsin can definitely be a top 25 team. But I just have some question marks on that offensive side of the ball. Purdue returns a lot of returning production for this upcoming season. You do lose a guy in David Bell, but Aiden O'Connell returns. He's going to be a beast in the Big Ten for this upcoming season. This defense for Purdue is going to be much improved. So Purdue could easily win the Big Ten West as well. Cincinnati, they have to be involved. They just made the college football playoff. To be honest, I probably could have moved them up, but I just overall think Wisconsin and Purdue have overall more talent, and they can do much more for this upcoming season. Cincinnati definitely needs to be considered, though, with even though they have 9 players going to the NFL, you still have some key guys on both sides of the ball. South Carolina, I'm a big fan of. We'll get to South Carolina in my predictions eventually as well. You have Spencer Rattler and Austin Stogner. Jaheim Bell is going to be a beast too. That defense is going to be good. I'm a big fan of Shane Beamer. Let's see what he can do with the Gamecocks, but I'm not sure if they would really compete with these upper teams. And then finally, I have to say Iowa. On the defensive side of the ball, they're amazing, but offensively, I still got some big-time question marks. If their offense is still really good, we can see, and they can definitely be a top 25 team, but if their offense is just as bad as last year, they're not a top 25 team in my opinion. At 25, I have the Pitt Panthers, and even though in my predictions video I said Pittsburgh is definitely going to be in that around that 2021 range, but when I actually ended up doing my top 25, they were just barely in my opinion. And it's not even if they're a bad team. They're going to compete really well in the ACC for this upcoming year. But I'm just looking at this. I think Fresno State would beat Pitt. I think Texas, Kentucky, Oklahoma State would beat Pitt. Overall, the majority of the teams in these top 25s I would have over Pitt. And even though I like Pitt for this upcoming year, they had to be at 25. At 24, I have Fresno State. You will see my Fresno State predictions in the upcoming days, and you'll really see how much of a big believer I am in this Fresno State team for this upcoming season. But I'm just going to give you a brief synopsis. That offense is going to be elite. And even besides a few tough games like USC and Boise State, they can easily win 10 plus games for this upcoming season, and they can easily be a top 25 team when the season ends. At number 23, I have Texas, and I said with Penn State and Nebraska, they have the boom or bust potential. Texas probably is the highest. They have the potential to make the college football playoff. There's so much talent on this team. As I'm recording this video, Quinn Ewers was announced the starting quarterback, but they can have a bust and be like 5-7 like they were last year. Isaiah Neyor, he got hurt in scrimmage. He's out for the season. And if you didn't watch my Texas predictions, go watch it after this video. I was very vocal on how I think Isaiah Neyor would be so impactful with this offense. I'm a big fan of him. Even though that wide receiver depth with Xavier Worthy and Jordan Whittington are still really good at Texas, you also have a three-headed monster. I think this offense is just not going to be as good as I think. And even though Texas could easily, at the end of the year, be a top 10 team just overall with the amount of talent, the highest I can put Texas as of right now is 23 because there's so much question marks with the team, in my opinion. At 22, I have Kentucky. And to be honest, I don't know much about Kentucky. I haven't took a full deep dive into the team. But I know this defense is going to be really good in the SEC for this upcoming year. I know Will Levis is going to be a beast on this offense. I know this running game is going to be really good. But until I take a full deep dive into this team, I can't really say they are better than Oklahoma State or better teams like Tennessee, Ole Miss, Arkansas. Also, in my predictions, I have those teams beating Kentucky anyway. But Kentucky, definitely a top 25 team. After I do my deep dive in my prediction on them, I may have them like a few spots ahead, but they're definitely in that like 19 to 22 range in my opinion. 21, I have Oklahoma State, and this is probably the first big question mark of the video. And as you will see in my Oklahoma State predictions, I'm not a big fan of this Cowboys team. Spencer Sanders, very experienced, but as we saw in a few games last year, he can be iffy sometimes. So I'm not really sure if he is going to be able to take that next big step. You do lose your running game, so that running attack is going to be a little bit weaker. You do have Brendan Presley coming back. I do think he's going to have a big year. But this defense was top 10 last year, if I'm not mistaken. That's not going to be the case this year. You lose your defensive coordinator in Jim Knowles. That's a huge hit. You have so many transfers who left Oklahoma State to go to other teams like Ohio State and LSU. This defense, the defensive line is really good. I'm a big fan of Colin Oliver. So that defensive line is not going to be an issue. But that linebacking core, and especially the secondary, those are going to be humongous question marks. And overall, I think Oklahoma State is going to be affected big time with these transfers and losses. And yes, even though Mike Gundy will be able to maintain a top 25 team with this Cowboys team, they won't be able to resurrect their success off of last season. At 20, I have the LSU Tigers, and I was very vocal in my LSU predictions. If you haven't watched that, go check it out. I'm a big fan of this LSU team for this upcoming season. And I've seen a lot of top 25s not include LSU a lot. I understand Brian Kelly may have to have a slow start in the SEC, as I do have them losing their first game in the SEC. There's too much talent on this team. I'm a big believer in Jaden Daniels, as I'm pretty sure he's going to be the starter. If not, Garrett Nussmeier is going to do a really good job at quarterback anyway. You have tons of experience off of last year's team. That defensive line from LSU is going to be top tier in all of college football for this upcoming year, in my opinion. LSU has too much talent to be worse than they were last year, in my opinion. If Kayshon Boutte and those wide receivers stay healthy, I could see him finishing in the top 15. But as you see with the few teams above, I think these other teams have more experience, the better coaching. But LSU, definitely going to have a good year for this upcoming year. At 19, I got the BYU Cougars, and they have so much returning production, it seems like. I'm pretty sure they're like second overall in all college football in returning production. Jaron Hall, you have experience at the quarterback position. The only hurt of this team is you lose your starting running back in Tyler Algier, as he is with the Atlanta Falcons now. That wide receiver core is all the same. Your offensive line actually improved due to transfer portal. That defense is going to be even better than it was last year, even though they don't have any key guys. Kalani Sitake is a phenomenal coach. He fits this BYU culture. The culture over there overall is just really good. And this BYU schedule, if they run the table, they can 100% make the college football playoff. And this is probably the lowest team I have in my top 25, in my opinion, that could make the college football playoff. At 18, I have Tennessee, and I was very vocal in my reaction to the AP Top 25 on how ridiculous it was that Tennessee wasn't in there. And I said I had Tennessee in this 20 range, but when I went back and did the top 25, I had them even higher than teams like BYU than I thought. I thought BYU would be over Tennessee, but I'm just a big fan of Tennessee that much. I'm a big believer in Josh Heupel. I think this offense is going to be potentially even better than it was last year after scoring over 39 points per game last year, which was ridiculous. This defense will have to step up with Tennessee. That offensive line will have to improve. But man, oh man, I do think those things will happen. And I think Tennessee is going to be a real threat in the SEC East for this upcoming season. At 17, I have Michigan State. And I think teams are a little underrating this team a little bit. Maybe I'm underrating them with my position. I'm a little bit higher on Michigan State, it seems like. But compared to some polls I've seen, this is actually kind of a little low. You have experience at quarterback with Peyton Thorne. This running back depth is even better than it was last year. Even though you may not have an overall better talent as you did with Kenneth Walker last year, the depth with that Spartans running back core is really crazy. You have Jaden Reed returning. Keon Coleman, I think, is going to take a step up. The defense, even though you are returning a lot of production, I don't think they're going to be as good as people are making them seem. They will have to improve drastically if they want to have a chance to compete in the Big Ten for this upcoming year. But man, oh man, I think Michigan State's going to be bound to have another big year. Maybe not as big as last year, but definitely going to be an 8-win team. Number 16 is Arkansas, and just because of the schedule, if you watch Arkansas, which was actually my last video, I said this team could easily win like 10 plus games, but due to the schedule, the floor for this team is like 6-6. If you slip up a few times, this Arkansas team could be put in a really bad situation. But I think Arkansas has the talent defensively. You have your running game set up. You have a great quarterback in KJ Jefferson. You get Jaden Hazelwood in that slot receiver position to fill in Traylon Burks. I think this Arkansas team can be as good as they were last year. And with this schedule, if they get big time wins, do not be surprised if they're like a team like Ole Miss was last season. Speaking of Ole Miss is actually going to be at 15 for me. I know you do have some big time guys on that team from last year leaving, but I think that with the amount of transfers Ole Miss has, they were able to just replace them. And even though that quarterback situation is a little iffy, Jackson Dart is probably the starter, but Luke Altmaier could easily be starting. Either way, I think this team's in a good situation with that quarterback. This rushing offense is super underrated in my opinion, behind Zach Evans. This wide receiver duo is a little underrated. And I think this defense is actually going to be the main part of this Ole Miss team due to key transfers like Hasheem Young and Troy Brown. I'm a big fan of this Ole Miss team. I think maybe they're not going to be able to have the same record as they were last year, but overall on the field, do not be surprised if Ole Miss was better than they were last season. At 14, I have the Oregon Ducks, and I love Dan Lanning. If you don't know, I am an Oregon fan. The quarterback situation is a little iffy. I think it's 100% Bo Nix's job. And I think people are underestimating Bo Nix's skill set, but I think this offense is going to be electric this upcoming year. And even though we may not have a key superstar on that offense, I would not be surprised if Oregon finishes with a top 10, 15 offense in all of college football for this upcoming year. The defense is so much talent. That linebacker duo of Justin Flo and Noah Sewell, man, oh man, that's easily a top 3 linebacker duo in college football. It has to be. That secondary is going to be young and experienced, and I can just go on and on with Oregon. But I just think with the inexperience in the entire new coaching staff, Oregon will slip up a few times. I do think Oregon can easily be a little higher when the season ends. But I just think with the teams above, they just have more potential than Oregon. And they also have more certainty. That's why Oregon's at 14. And then you may be saying, certainty, what about USC? I'm more certain that Lincoln Riley can produce a playoff caliber team than Dan Lanning. We saw him at Oklahoma. Caleb Williams returns at quarterback for that Lincoln Riley offense. The wide receiver, like the entire group is just absolutely crazy. their offense overall is absolutely crazy. The defense is going to be the issue like most Lincoln Riley teams, but the offense is just so elite. They are at this number 13 spot. But I could definitely see a world where USC is not in the top 25 and they go like 8-4. But then also at the same time, I could easily see a world where they go like 11-1 and make the college football playoff. At number 12, I have Baylor, and this is like the highest I can put Baylor in my opinion. I love Dave Aranda, I do, but with the amount of players leaving, I do like Blake Shapen. I think he's gonna be really good, but I just have so many question marks with that offense. I'm not worried about the defense. I think Dave Aranda is gonna be able to step up, and even though Baylor has a great offensive coordinator in Jeff Grimes, just with the overall talent they lost due to the NFL or graduation, I don't see a world where Baylor is able to replicate what they did last year. I do think they will 100% be a top 25 team when the season ends, but I just don't know if they're going to be as elite as they were last year. But at this number 12 spot, I would personally have them like at 13, but I'm just that much of a fan of Dave Aranda, and I'm a big believer in him. That's why Baylor's at 12. At number 11 is Oklahoma, and even though people are saying they're overrated, I'm not really sure about that. I don't think they're a top 10 team when we enter the season, but man, oh man, they're just outside the cusp, and that's why I have them at 11. I think Dalen Gabriel is going to definitely be surprising some people. He does have a few weapons over there. Oklahoma still, like Marvin Mims. That offensive line for Oklahoma is going to be good in my opinion as well. The defense under Brett Venables is going to be absolutely insane in my opinion. Maybe not a top tier defense, but the difference of what Oklahoma's defense has been for the past few years in this upcoming season is definitely going to be drastic, and you will be able to see it day one under this Venables offense. And even though this defense, my bad. But even though with this offense, it may not be elite like it was with Lincoln Riley, Jeff Lebby will be able to produce a really good offense for this Oklahoma team to be able to compete and have a chance for the college football playoff. At number 10, I have NC State, and just overall with the returning production and what they did last year, I had to have them in my top 10. I'm a big fan of Devin Leary, as I said in my NC State predictions video, and this defense going to be a top tier defense in all of college football, and all your main tough games besides Clemson are at home, so that's a huge plus for NC State. Everyone has them as a college football playoff dark horse, and I understand why. I don't think they will make the college football playoff, but I can easily see why people say they could make the playoff. Number 9 is Texas A&M, and man, oh man, I have to give this one out, as you probably see Miami at 8 too. I think Jimbo Fisher is going to be able to do better at Texas A&M than he did last year. Even though he lost the experience at that A&M team, the talent there is going to be better than last year. And even though it may be only by a win or two, Texas A&M will finish at least in the top 20 for this upcoming year. They're not going to be outside the top 25 like they were last year. Whoever the quarterback is, I think they're going to be better than people anticipate. I'm just going to assume the quarterback's going to be Haynes King. But that running game with Devin Ackney is going to be elite. I think the wide receiver core is finally going to be able to do a step, as I think Evan Stewart is going to bring that wide receiver core up a notch. Overall, with the schedule, that's why I think A&M's just like, whoa, why are they so high? And if you have them in the top 5, I kind of think you're ridiculous. But I have to say they are a top 10 team just with the amount of talent on this team. Even though you do lose Mike Elko as well, I think Texas A&M will definitely finish as a top 15 team. And as we enter the season, they are a top 10 team. At number 8, I have Miami, and this is probably the biggest one of the video. Like, whoa, why is this team so high? Miami's that team. And if you want to have a deep reason why, go watch my Miami predictions. But I'll just give a brief synopsis. I'm a huge fan of the staff that Mario Cristobal brought in from Miami. I think Tyler Van Dyke is going to be a top 5, 7 quarterback in all college football. I think Jalen Knighton, the running back for Miami, is going to have a breakout season, and he's going to solidify himself as a top-tier running back in college football. And I think with all the returning production stars on that defensive side of the ball, this defense is going to be elite in the ACC, potentially in all college football. And with the schedule, Miami could make the college football playoff, in my opinion. And maybe not the Canes are back this year, but definitely in the future, Miami will have a playoff appearance. At 7, I have Notre Dame, and personally, I wanted to have Miami over them, but I just think with Notre Dame's defense, I had to have Notre Dame over Miami. Notre Dame has a top 5 defense in all college football. It's absolutely crazy what they have defensively. But like last year, this offense is just going to kill this team, in my opinion. I don't think they're going to make the college football playoff. Their top tier wide receiver, Avery Davis, is now out for the year with an injury. So that was announced before I made my top 25. I would not be surprised if you would have Miami, Texas A&M, and maybe even NC State over Notre Dame now, with them losing their top wide receiver. And maybe even Jared Patterson is also hurt for Notre Dame. That offense is going to be struggling a little bit, but this defense is going to be just carrying this Notre Dame team. And I also love Marcus Freeman, so that's why I have Notre Dame at 7. Number 6, I have Utah. A few guys have Utah at that number 4, number 5 spot. But as you see, we'll see with those teams in Michigan and Clemson, as those are basically given. I just think both of those teams have more talent. I think Utah is just getting a tad overrated at this point, in my opinion. Definitely the Pac-12 favorite. Definitely a top 10 team, but not a top 5 team. They just missed the cut. I'm a humongous fan of Tavion Thomas, but I think that defense will just get hurt a little bit due to the loss of Devin Lloyd. But Utah definitely going to be a top 10 team entering this college football season. At number 5, I have the Michigan Wolverines, and Michigan and Clemson were just so close in my opinion, but I just ended up giving the nod to Clemson. Michigan has so many question marks with this team. Who's the quarterback? Is it going to be Cade McNamara, or is it going to be J.J. McCarthy? I like it. I'm a J.J. McCarthy guy, but I do think Cade will be the starting quarterback. I'm a big fan of Donovan Edwards. I'm not sure how well Blake Corum is going to be improved up for this upcoming year. The wide receiver core is going to be better this upcoming season, but that offense could be overall struggling due to Josh Gaddis moving on, as he's now at Miami. Really going to be interesting to see how that offense performs. This defense took a lot of hits due to the NFL, as Aiden Hutchinson, David Ojabo, and Daxton Hill all left for the NFL, and your defensive coordinator is now with the Baltimore Ravens. So you have a new defensive coordinator over there in Michigan, and it's going to be really intriguing to see how this Michigan team is overall. Number 4, I have Clemson, and even though both Michigan and Clemson both lost their offensive coordinators, Clemson's defense is the best in college football, in my opinion. Brian Brossi, Miles Murphy, that's a dynamic duo in itself. This linebacking core is absolutely insane. The secondary is really good as well. Best defense in college football, in my opinion, period. This offense is getting, like, the question marks. I do think they will be able to bounce back. If it's not DJ at quarterback, I do think Cade Klubnik will be able to step in and have a day one impact. Will Shipley and Kobe Pace are going to be beasts for this upcoming season, in my opinion. And even though the wide receiver core is a little iffy, I think the offensive line and that running game will be able to just serve as this offense, as this defense absolutely carries this team. Clemson does have college football playoff aspirations. They definitely have the chance, and I do think they have a better chance than a few teams like Utah, Michigan, Texas A&M, and Miami. In the top 3, I really don't have to go into it. I have Alabama 1. Just what they're returning with all the stardom is absolutely crazy. And when Nick Saban, they had a down year, I have to agree with them. They had a down year last year. This wide receiver core is really good. This offensive line is top tier. The depth at the running back position is insane. You return the Heisman winner and Bryce Young at quarterback. This defense with Will Anderson and Dallas Turner, that's the best two-headed monster in all college football. Alabama's number 1. Number 2 is Ohio State. This offense, best in all of college football. The defense is going to be much improved, in my opinion, under Jim Knowles as defensive coordinator. And overall, I just have a few more question marks with Georgia. Like, how is the defense going to perform after losing so much starters on the defensive side of the ball? You have the talent, but how's that going to perform, especially when you also lose Dan Lanning at defensive coordinator? This offense is going to be really good, in my opinion. I think Stetson Bennett's a really good quarterback. This wide receiver core, even though there's no number 1 key guy, the depth at wide receiver there is absolutely insane. You always seem to have a nice quality offensive line. And I just think Ohio State's offense just propels them over Georgia, and that's why I have them at number 2 and Georgia at number 3. Alabama at number 1 are a thing I really don't even need to talk about. So that is it for my preseason top 25. If you want more of a deep dive into a team, either check out my predictions video or let me know in the comment section below. I'm willing to say my reasonings more about certain placement. If there's a team I did not talk about, let me know in the comment section below, as there is a few teams that didn't make the miscut graphic. If you think there's a team I'm missing, let me know in the comment section below. So yeah, like always, like, share, subscribe, push notifications on so you don't miss any of my videos. Share this video so we can grow this ELK NCAA community. And like always, have a good day. Peace out.